Swami Vivekananda traveled to America via China, Japan, and Canada and reached Chicago about the middle of July. At Canton, he saw some Buddhist monasteries. In Japan, he noted with admiration the industrial progress and cleanliness of the people. Now at Chicago, so dazzling with riches and the inventive genius of the West, he was puzzled like a child. To his disappointment, he learnt that the Parliament of Religions would not be held until September, and that no one could be a delegate without credentials. He felt lost, but resigning himself to the will of Providence. He went to Boston, which was less expensive than Chicago. In the train, he happened to become acquainted with Miss Catherine Sanborn, who invited him to be her guest at Boston. To her, he came to know Professor John Henry Wright of Harvard University, who gave him a letter of introduction to the chairman of the Parliament of Religions. In the course of this letter, Dr. Wright said, "Here is a man who is more learned than all our learned professors put together." The Swami returned to Chicago a couple of days before the opening of the Parliament of Religions, but found to his dismay that he had lost the address of the committee which was providing hospitality for the Oriental delegates. After a night's rest in a huge box in the railway freight yard, the Swami set out in the morning to find somebody who could help him out of this difficulty. But help for a colored man was not readily available. Exhausted by a fruitless search, he sat down on the roadside, resigning himself to the divine will. Suddenly, a lady regal appearance and emerged from the fashionable house opposite, approached him and offered him help. This was Mrs. George W. Hale, whose house was to become in future the permanent address of Swami while in the United States. For the Hale family became his devoted followers. And the Parliament of Religions opened on 11th September 1893. The spacious hall of the people representing the best culture of the country. On the platform, every organized religion from all corners of the world has its representatives. The Swami had never addressed such a huge and distinguished gathering. He felt extremely nervous. When his turn came, he mentally bowed down to Saraswati, the goddess of learning, and then began his address with the words, "Sisters and brothers of America." Immediately, there was a and thunderous applause from the vast audience, and it lasted for full 2 minutes. 7,000 people rose to their feet as a tribute to something. They knew not what. The appeal of his simple words of burning sincerity, his great personality, his bright countenance, and his orange robes was so great that next day the newspapers described him as the greatest figure in the Parliament of Religions. The simple monk with a begging bowl had become the man of the hour. All the subsequent speeches of the Swami at the Parliament were listened to with great respect and appreciation. They all had one common theme: universality. While all the delegates to the parliament spoke of their own religion, the Swami spoke of a religion that was vast as the sky and deep as the ocean. When the parliament ended, the day of quiet had ended for the Swami. What followed were days of hectic lecturing in almost every part of the United States. Having signed a contract for a lecture tour with a bureau, the Swami had to be constantly on the move, speaking to all sorts of audiences. So, this tour provided him with the opportunities of knowing the different aspects of Western life. At first hand, he found that the Bureau exploited and embarrassed him. He felt disgusted and severed his connection with it. Now he wanted to form a group of earnest American disciples and began classes free of charge for sincere students. His stay in the West, which lasted till December 1896, was packed with intense activity. Besides innumerable lectures and classes at New York, he founded a Vedanta society there. He trained a band of close disciples at the Thousand Island Park. And he wrote Raja Yoga and paid two successful visits to England, where he gave the lectures which now form Jnana Yoga. There he made some disciples, prominent among them being Captain and Mrs. Seaver's sister Nivedita and E.T.'s study earlier in New York, J.J. Goodwin, a young English stenographer, had been accepted as his disciples. It was during these visits that he had the pleasure of meeting the great savant Max Muller. During his tour of Europe in the summer of 1895, he also met the famous German Orientalist Paul Deussen. He had labored hard to give to the West his message of Vedanta as the universal principle basic to all religions, and his effort had by now resulted in the establishment of the Vedanta work on a parliament basis in the United States. The London work, too, had made some progress. Now his motherland was calling his and was eager to receive his message. So from London he started for India at the end of 1896. Besides his American and English disciples, he left behind his brother disciples Sardananda and Abhedananda to carry on the work.